everybody. Welcome to The Dark Night of the Soul of Humankind, Part 2. So, here we are going to look at our shadow. One of the things about humanity's shadow and our individual shadows as well, as in yours and my shadow side, is that the shadow that we don't see stays in power. So that if you are not able to recognize that you're doing certain things that are either detrimental to yourself or others, they're going to keep running the show, right? And if you are sitting in, let's say that fear is running your life, fear is often the motivating factor behind the shadow, right? Let's say that there are fears in your life that are either unexamined, either you haven't gone into them because you've just accepted, well, I'm supposed to be afraid of not surviving. I'm supposed to be afraid of not having money. I'm supposed to be afraid of not being liked. So we haven't looked into them. We haven't digested them. We haven't sat with them. And as we are seeing them, right, you start to see that, oh, there are things in my life that are not cool. There are things in my life I have to look at, bring up to the surface. Is there an imbalance in our lives? Is there something I'm doing too much, too little? Do I have addictive behaviors in my life? Am I being addicted in certain ways or not? Can I see those behaviors? If I can begin to see them, I'm getting closer to myself, right? So you're getting closer to yourself as you learn to see through your own deceit, right? We're deceiving ourselves. And as we start to see through those, we begin to recognize that underneath that, in the center of that, let's say that all the fears and all the negative behaviors and negative thoughts are swimming around the center of you. The center of you is like that light, right? The original core energy, who you are, your original blueprint. And then around that, we have formed all these fears that are running our lives. These fears are, when they're unexamined, they can really, really hurt ourselves and, in extension, others too, right? Sometimes we hurt others first, but usually we're already hurting, right? It's that saying, hurt people hurt people. And it's a beautiful saying, right? It's like the shadow side in somebody hurts somebody else, and then they now have another shadow side. Sometimes we go through experiences in life where you're fairly innocent in a certain area, and then you meet somebody who takes away that innocence. Either they have behaviors that are making you fear-based, or whatever else it could be that comes up for you that now taught you, oh, I guess I can't trust those kind of people. I can't trust this situation. And suddenly we have a new side of our shadow coming up, this side that's going to try and protect us when we end up in trouble. And this is where it gets a little interesting, right? Because the shadow side in itself was never meant to be harmful to yourself. It was meant to save you. It was meant to hold you, protect you. Because most of us have grown up with different forms of traumas in our lives where we needed a shadow side that popped up and protected us. And at times, then, when that becomes a kind of an ego program, it's easy to think that I need this shadow side up all the time, like a shield. And that can be aggression. That can be something less obvious. That could be, oh, I need to tell little lies here and there. I need to not to hurt, so I don't hurt other people's feelings. I got to say little white lies here and there. Whatever it might be that you feel you have a right to do. If you really sit with it, you can see how that sort of permeates through our lives. Almost, because then we have like the shadow side in our lives, right? It does that, and for ourselves, when there's a shadow side in your life, that either you're being a flirt, either you're being dishonest in certain parts of your life, whatever it might be, there's no judgment here. These are more statements. These are more, well, let's look at ourselves. Let's just look. Let's just see what's going on. So when we begin to kind of soberly, honestly look at ourselves, it becomes a lot easier to see, oh, well, that's not a very good quality. Let me look into it, sit with it. Is that based in a fear? Is it based in a fear of abandonment? Is it based in a fear of not having enough? Is it based in a fear of not trusting the universe to bring me life when I need it? Because I am part of life, right? So our shadow and negativity and ego creates this world, almost like we're living in the shadows. And if we look at then the larger scope of our world, we look at humankind as a whole, as one big organism, and we look at our countries, how the countries on our world have weaponized themselves to protect themselves against each other, because at some point maybe that was necessary, because at some point maybe there was a crazy tyrant in one country that wanted to take over all the others, right? But over time, we start to recognize that, wait a second, is that an echo from something old? Or is it something that's an actuality now? And I know that we're going to say, oh my God, yeah, in Russia. But we also know that there are a lot of propaganda wars going on. That there's a lot of, like, most of what we see through the news is not facts. They are not facts. It's not reality. It's made up so that we will have certain feelings about certain things, so we will go along with whatever the narrative wants us to go along. And so the shadow side of humanity, if we don't see that the way we are taking oil from Earth Mother, and then spreading all of that in the atmosphere. Now, I'm not saying that there is no propaganda behind what they call climate change. At the same time, I'm also saying we are still polluting our world. We are still hurting Earth Mother. We are still throwing out trash, and we are polluting the air, polluting the waters, polluting the food, left and right, the soil. We're doing it all the time. We don't have to be as black or white to say, well, all climate change is a hoax or no climate change is a hoax. We don't have to be that black or white. We could look at it as, yeah, we are the pesticides we're using, the exhaust that's coming out of both cars and airplanes and boats and everything. It's polluting our air. The pesticides are polluting our soil and our water. There is a lot of pollution, period. And the same thing goes with the Wi-Fi, right? We have 5G everywhere. That's also a pollutant, at least towards any organic living matter. So to look at our world from this place, if we can start to see, oh, so we are creating havoc. Let's see it. Let's look at it. Why are we doing this? We think there's not enough. Well, maybe there is. Are there other ways to sustain ourselves? Are there other ways to make our cars move, to make our planes fly? Are there other fuels available? Is there another technology we could come up with? And then we can look at, well, what's driving the resistance to change? Well, it's of course greed, which then greed is based in fear, right? Greed itself is not really a thing, but it's based in the fear of not having enough. And that is a thing, right? So then we can look at that, and once we can see, so we're fear-based. We are afraid of not having enough. We think we won't be able to survive. If we can see it, we can breathe spaciousness into it. We can breathe into it and sit with it and be like, okay, we can approach it from more of a sober point of view, from more of a godly or holy or sacred point of view, where we learn that we need to be a part of this organism called Earth Mother. We learn that we need to be a part of the whole system, not a either dominant, aggressive force that has very much grown sort of like a cancer on our planet. If we can change our ways, the way we are polluting now is definitely much like how cancer grows in the body. If we shift out of that framework, and we realize that we are part of this planet, we're part of this earth, we're part of this organism we call Earth Mother. When we realize, honor your mother, honor your father, right? So we start to honor nature, because it also means we're honoring ourselves. And now we're beginning to see that if humanity as a group can see through their own fallacies, even the fact that how our government system is built up is very inhumane, right? It's very much like you don't have a choice. If you're born into a country, you owe that country money, you owe that country this or that. And there's a pretty big like fallacy around that from a human perspective. It's not real reality. That's something that we have made up. And when I say it's not real reality, is what I mean is it's not the law of nature. It's not the law if we suddenly didn't have country borders the way we do now. And if we suddenly belong to the land more, everything would shift in our perception. And what's important now, well, I was born in this country and this is my country. Suddenly, like, well, I need to survive. We're in a different mind space. We're in a completely different state. And if we can see through those shadows that are running our programs, how the government is trying to control everybody, how because in all honesty, a government is elected by its people. It's not meant to control the whole country. It's meant to just be a guiding force, not a controlling, manipulating, lying, cheating bastard, right? It's meant to be honest, and it's meant to keep its word. It's meant to be there for its people. So we have a system that's gone awry. And until we can see it, until we see through the shadow side of our own culture, our own society, we're going to keep suffering. It's a lot like if you are an alcoholic and you cannot stop drinking. And it's usually because we cannot face what we think is so horrible that we did or that we feel or that we are. And I'm telling you that if we are able to sit with our shadow side, and if humanity is able to sit with its shadow side, we can create something so beautiful, something so powerful, completely different from what we have now. We can come into coherence with Earth Mother. We can come into congruency with life on the planet. And as we do, we begin to strengthen, right? We even these words, we can feel the energy of it. We can feel the power of it. We can feel that, if we align ourselves with the ways of nature, and instead of taking from Earth Mother, we become a part of a system, we can bring health to the system. We can bring health to ourselves. And as we bring health to the system, we will also become healthier. Sometimes it starts within you and within me, but it's a combination, right? We're bringing health into ourselves. And as we're doing that, we're also bringing health to our surroundings. So a lot of this dark side or the dark night of the soul for humanity and seeing our shadow is this part of seeing through the fallacies, learning what is honesty. How can we be honest? How can you and I learn how to be honest? How can we be more real? So, and this is real as in, not in that, because here's another thing, right? We have an imbalance in our system, in our society, where what we call real, being real, you got to get a job, you got to work these 8 hours a day, you got to work 5 days a week, and you have to sacrifice this much of your life in order to survive. Well, that's a system we have made up, right? 100 years ago, that was 10 hours a day. And before that, it was 10 hours a day and 6 days a week. And before, like at that time, they were making children work. It's a system we have made up. We have made up. That's why I refer to it as the Matrix. And breaking free from it means we see through the fallacies. We see through the deceit, the lies, the untruths. Doesn't mean that everything is bad. It doesn't mean that we should just go out and be sad. But it does mean we need to see through it. Just like if you're in a family structure where if there's an alcoholic in your family, everybody else has to keep up pretenses. The rest of the family has to pretend that everything is fine. Even if, mom or dad will be beating you on the weekend, even if they're drinking on the weekends, whatever they are. whatever's going on, there's a cheater in your house, and everybody has to be quiet about it. Everybody has to shut down about it. We have to see through these things. It's not that we have to be angry about it. We just have to see it, to recognize it, to learn to live more in light. This is how we release our shadow, by embracing it, by seeing it, giving it light, giving it awareness. All right, we are moving on to chapter 10, episode 10 of Breaking Free from the Matrix. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're doing wonderful. Namaste, and Aho.